The African elephant remembers where water is, not in a general sense, not the way you remember. There's a gas station somewhere off the highway. It remembers the specific dry riverbed where its grandmother dug with her tusks 40 years ago, and it walks there across 30 miles of scorched bush, and it digs, and water comes up, and then 60 other species show up to drink from a hole that exists because one animal remembered a map it was never shown. Loxodonta africana is the largest living land animal, which you already knew because everyone knows that because it is extremely large and difficult to miss. Shoulder height, 11 feet, weight up to 13,000 pounds on a good day, which for an elephant is any day that involves 600 pounds of vegetation. It has a prehensile trunk with two finger-like processes at the tip, which means it can pick up a single seed or rip a branch off a tree, depending on its mood. The ears are not decorative, they are thermal regulators. The skin has cracks in it that retain moisture, which sounds like a design flaw, but is actually a cooling system more sophisticated than most buildings. It also has tusks, or it used to. We will get to that. What most people do not understand about elephants is that they are not just large animals that live in the savanna. They are large animals that build the savanna. They push over trees, which sounds destructive until you realize that the fallen trees create clearings for grasses, which feed grazers, which feed predators, which is the food web you saw on the nature documentary you watched once while folding laundry. They dig water holes, they carve trails through dense bush that double as fire breaks, they eat fruit and walk 40 miles and deposit the seeds in a new location wrapped in a generous pile of fertilizer. Some of those seeds will not germinate unless they have been through an elephant's digestive system. The elephant is not using the ecosystem. The elephant is assembling the ecosystem from scratch every day on foot. What the elephant provides is what ecologists call a supporting service. That is one of 4 categories of ecosystem services, and it is the one nobody talks about because it sounds boring. And yes, our diagram has decided to spotlight cultural instead of supporting. 4th pillar from the left, if the artist is taking notes, supporting services are the foundational work that makes every other category possible. Nutrient cycling, soil formation, habitat creation, primary production. If provisioning services are what the ecosystem hands you and regulating services are what it does in the background, supporting services are the reason the ecosystem exists at all. They are the stage the other 3 perform on. And this elephant, this 11,000-pound animal that eats 600 pounds of vegetation a day and walks 30 miles to remember where water was 4 decades ago, is building that stage constantly with its face. The chain is specific. Elephants dig dry riverbeds, creating water holes that sustain wildlife and cattle herders through the dry season. Elephant trails become natural fire breaks that reduce wildfire spread across the bush. Large fruited trees, the kind whose seeds are too big for any other animal to swallow and disperse, depend on elephants for reproduction. Those trees store disproportionate amounts of carbon. A 2019 study in Nature Geoscience estimated that forest elephants alone are responsible for maintaining carbon stocks worth roughly $43 billion in Central African forests. The savanna elephant's contribution to bush structure, seed dispersal, and water access is harder to price, but no less load-bearing. Between 2007 and 2014, African savanna elephant populations dropped by 30%. That is not a slow decline. That is a third of the population in 7 years, driven primarily by the ivory trade. In areas where elephants have been removed, the results are already visible. Bush encroachment, dense woody vegetation overtakes grasslands because nothing is knocking the trees over. Grazing land shrinks, cattle herders lose range, water holes dry up because nobody is digging new ones, and nobody remembers where the old ones were. Large fruited trees stop reproducing because there is no dispersal agent left that can handle the seed size. The supporting service collapses, and the species that depended on the stage the elephant was building start to go with it. If you're squinting at this image trying to spot the tuskless elephant, stop. They both have tusks. Our artist has ironically failed to illustrate the exact trait we are about to discuss. And then there's the part that should keep you up at night. In Mozambique's Gorongosa National Park, after the Civil War wiped out 90% of the elephant population through ivory poaching, researchers documented something that had never been seen at this speed in a large mammal. The surviving females were overwhelmingly tuskless, not because tuskless elephants are healthier, because tusked elephants were selectively killed. Over roughly 2 decades, the frequency of tusklessness in female elephants went from 18% to 51%. We rewrote the genome of the African elephant in 50 years, not through genetic engineering, through poaching pressure so intense that the only elephants left to breed were the ones the poachers did not want. We talk about extinction like it is the only thing that matters, but we are not just losing elephants, we are changing what an elephant is. We took an animal that has been building savannas for 6 million years and in the span of a single human lifetime selected against the body part it uses to dig water holes, strip bark, and defend its young. That is not conservation failure. That is editorial revision of a species performed by the market without peer review. Thanks for watching. If the idea of a 13,000-pound landscape architect interests you, subscribe. There are more of these. I will be here reading the paperwork until somebody does something about it.